In conversation with Jann Franklin. Jann Franklin is a faith-based cozy mystery writer, attracting readers who enjoy twisty southern mysteries with a touch of romance and a dose of humor. Her books offer mysteries in Louisiana with curious clues and characters who exasperate as much as they endear. And in today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today, Jann Franklin. How are you doing today, Jan? Good afternoon from England.
Good afternoon. It is 10 o'clock in the morning here. So we just fed the chickens this morning and had a couple of cups of coffee. We're getting our day started. So
Interesting. That's quite amazing. Time travel, I always say. It's amazing we're here, really. Thank you so much for coming on for us to sit and talk about muffaletas and murder. Yeah, thank you. And I actually need to first say that I did find the description of your book to be quite amazing and quite lovely to me, which of course is a first book in a small town girl mystery series on Amazon. And I would like us to start today's conversation, obviously, like we always start new interviews, by asking authors, could you run us through the background to the making of this book, the foundation to the making of the book? When was the time you realized that you needed to tell a story? When was the time you realized that you needed to write a story and pull all of this thing together? If you can run us through what inspired the making of Muffaletex and Mother, that would be great.
Okay, well, it's actually a humorous book, so I don't have a real profound or deep inspiration for writing it. I write a newspaper column in our local newspaper, just
Mm,
about. I used to live in a big city, and then we moved here to Grand Cane, Louisiana, which is less than 300. So it was a big culture shock. So my newspaper articles are about the charm of a small town and how it can be a fun and nice place to live. But I kept running into these stories and I'd think, wouldn't it be interesting if it had actually happened this way?
mm,
Or maybe if this had happened instead, which of course is fiction. So my husband said, you should write a book about a small town where those things actually do happen. So
mm.
that's kind of how that got started.
Wow. That sounds to me to be a fresh, lovely, beautiful ride into becoming a writer. Sounds to me like an amazing introduction into becoming an author. And I'd like you to rex the book to the camera if you have a copy there with you. So we can, that's an amazing cover. What inspired that? Look at the houses in there and something that looks like a character on top head over there and the name in in the middle. Could you run us through the making of that? That sounds to be quite beautiful, really.
Well, this is the state of Louisiana. We're right down by this right is right off the coast, the Gulf Coast. This is the heroine and her dog. This is
Wow.
actually the Muffalatas in the book. It says Muffalatas and Murder. When it's a mystery, and so when she is trying to work on this mystery, she writes mystery novels, and so she doesn't really know a lot about solving a real mystery. So she has a
Mm.
friend who is a private investigator, but she can't pay him, but he loves her muffalata sandwiches, so she pays him in muffalatas.
Wow.
And then this is the small town where they are. There we go. Where they live, and it
Mm.
is a very small town, as you can tell. And
Yeah.
as this is the first book, I have the sixth one coming out this month, and as you will notice, as the series progresses, the town changes on the cover.
Mm. And that's quite an amazing illustration you've got in there. A beautiful answer you've got. And your answer to that got me wondering to ask you, what inspired you to set this series in Louisiana? Is there any particular historical background to it? Is there any particular striking thing that made you think of Louisiana and said, okay, I need to set the story, I need to set it in this city? What could you run us through the making of that? What inspired that particularly?
That's a great question. So I live here, and of course, so it's easier to write about where I
I live.
live versus writing about Nigeria, which I've never
Absolutely.
visited,
Mm,
and I've been to England, but it would be hard to write about. Anyway, so I picked this because it was easy, but I will tell you, Louisiana has an amazing culture. The French were in Canada.
Yeah,
England, the British came over and kicked a bunch of them out of the Acadiana, which is where they were living. And
yeah.
a lot of them migrated to Louisiana
Mm,
and became Acadians and then Cajuns. And then there's the Creole influence too. So there's the food is amazing. The
mm,
Cajuns have the most funny, beautiful, it's not really funny, dialect. And it's just got a lot of history and culture that not a lot of people know about if they don't live here. So
mm.
I wanted to tell that story too.
Wow, that's a beautiful one, really, and I think that's quite commendable, even. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Jan, in both bolding and bloodshed and fruitcake and fraud, you continue to blend small town charm with mystery and humor. What inspired the storyline for these two books, and were there particular themes you wanted to explore more deeply as the series progressed? I'm just curious.
So here is Boudin and Bloodshed. You can see the cover is similar, but
Yeah.
the town's changed a little bit.
Mm,
Um, and then here's the Boudin, which you can tell looks like a sausage.
mm,
It's actually a sausage casing stuffed with rice and spices. People eat it a lot here in Louisiana. And another thing that is real big in this area is oil and gas. So we have a lot of oil and gas workers drilling and putting in pipelines. And so this Boudin and Bloodshed is about a group of oil field workers. One of them goes
wow.
missing and is found dead, and the others are suspected of killing him.
Mm,
So it talks a bit about that. Here's fruitcake and fraud. You can tell
wow.
now it's Christmas. Here in America, we eat fruitcake. So you can see the fruitcake right here. And the little dog has a hat.
Oh, it's
So this was about, so it comes out, it's Christmas time, and you could tell by the cover, it doesn't snow in Louisiana really, especially at Christmas. And
wow.
then also fruitcake. There is fruitcake. A woman in town makes a lot of fruitcake and gives it away, but it's really bad and nobody likes it. So it disappears. And so she hires the detectives to try to find her missing fruitcake, but they're not very motivated because it's not very good and nobody really wants them to find it. So
Wow.
it's pretty funny.
Wow, that's an amazing roller coaster you've got in there. And I love your excitement talking about this book, really. It comes so through.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that. And I would like us to go now into much of your characterization because your characters are full of charm and quirks. I wanted to ask you, how do you come up with them? Are any of them based on real life friends or neighbors? And also, do you have a favorite characters that you've created? I'm just, curious, a curious cat. I'd love to know.
A lot of them are based on people I know. In fact, I have people ask me, could you put me in your book? I would
Oh,
love to be
really?
in it.
Oh, that's it.
So, the protagonist's father, my father said, could you put me in your book? I would love to be there. So her father is based on my father. He's a retired veterinarian. He is widowed and lives in town. Then there's other people that just have said, "Oh, hey, could I just have a minor role? I don't want to kill anybody. I don't want to be killed, but could I just maybe be there?" So like my plumber, our sheriff, the lady that runs the coffee shop. They're all characters in the book and they are based on the people in our town.
Wow. Oh, wow. That must be an amazing one, really. I love the one that said, "Can you put me in the book? I don't want to kill anyone. I don't want to be killed as well." That will sounds fun to see your fictional character get killed in a novel. That was particularly written by somebody you happen to know. That
I
was
try
quite
not to
fun.
base them on people I don't like because then if they die, kill them off, then that looks bad. So, but
Mm,
so it's been fun. I did actually have somebody that said, I want to be a character and I want to be a drug dealer and I want to kill somebody. And I said, no, I don't know about that. So it seemed a little too like, why do you want to be that way? So I don't think we'll
I
do
mean, I
that.
don't know about that. That's a very interesting answer. I don't know what you're talking about, please. You know,
Exactly.
it's a fun one. Thank you. And Jen, as a faith-based writer that you are, how do you incorporate spirituality in a way that feels natural to the story and characters? And also, what role do your personal faith plays in your writing? Does it influence in any way? Does it influence the making of your storytelling? Just run us through. I'm just being curious about around that. I'd love to know.
That's a great question. I would have to say if you bought my book because you're looking for some sort of great spiritual message, then you bought it for the wrong reasons. It's more about people who do have faith and they do pray and they do go to church, but it's just incorporated into their everyday lives.
Mm,
So nothing real. There's no swearing and there's no bedroom scenes and all that good stuff. I mean, my when my mother-in-law was alive, she used to read my books, and I always knew I could never write anything that would embarrass me in front of her, and I've just continued that path. So
interesting. Oh, I love that. That's quite an amazing one. To be conscious, yeah. I think you being conscious of what you write down and produce to the public in there. Interesting. That's a lovely one. And I like us to diversify a little bit into the discussion of readers' feedbacks. Because one of the things that I love particularly about writing is to sit back, grab a cup of coffee, fold my hands, and listen to readers' feedback. And you may want to agree with me that one of the things that makes literature to be quite heavy, quite complex, is the fact that it can be read by certain people and interpreted different manners. With somebody, getting it, some people close to getting what the author intended, some might be far from getting the message that the author intended, some may even hilariously interpret the book upside down. As hilariously fun and interesting as they sound, I would like to ask you, how do you feel when readers have their own personal, different opinions or ideas compared to what you intentionally wanted to communicate in your writing? How does that scenario make you feel as a storyteller? How do you react to cases of that nature?
it used to kind of upset me or make me feel like I needed to change something to make
Mm,
that particular reader happier. But as I've written more books, I've realized that, I mean, there's always going to be people that disagree or
yeah,
don't like my writing, and that's okay. I mean, I
mm,
don't like every single thing that I read or watch or
absolutely.
eat, and that's okay too. Some feedback has been constructive, some of it has been kind of ugly, but I take it all in stride, and I always look at it and say, "Oh, okay, you thought my book was 50 pages too long and boring in parts. Okay, well, I'll take that into account, but I'm not going to head to the myself a failure because
Mm.
there's so much more to it than that."
Absolutely. I love your idea about that, and I love your take regarding that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's quite beautiful to know. And just apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
I just finished a book. It's actually in another book series that I
Wow.
have. I've got actually four. I guess I've got four
Mm.
book series, but one hasn't come out yet. But anyway, I've got another series, same thing in a small town. She runs a bed and breakfast, and she's younger. She's barely 30, so she's navigating dating and being on her own and running her own business. So that's I just finished that one. That'll probably come out in the fall. So that's been kind
Mm.
of fun. And then I started, it's at the publisher. It's going to be only come out at Christmas, one book per Christmas, and
Wow.
it's the Letters to Santa series. So no dead bodies. I don't want to do dead bodies at Christmas time. It'll just be a mystery. The one I just did. she the ladies volunteering at the library. They're putting
Mm.
together, people can write in a letter to Santa and they might need clothing or maybe they can't afford a Christmas tree or a Christmas dinner. So then the community has volunteers that are donating supplies and food and things, and
Wow.
the volunteers are matching the people together, and she finds a letter that's written to Santa, and the woman's sister has been missing for 50 years. So not something the
Um,
library can really pull up as a donation. So she and her friend decide to try to solve the mystery of the case of the missing sister. So
mm. Wow, that sounds to be quite amazing, really. Seems to me like you've got a lot ongoing. That's quite commendable. I hope you find some times to sleep. I hope so.
I'll work on that.
So you work on that. That's a very lovely answer. I work on that. That's quite interesting, really. I love your answers to these questions. They're quite beautiful and quite
Thank
wholesome.
you.
Thank you. Yeah. And as a published author that you are, I mean, somebody who has written quite a number of it, actually, which I find to be quite impressive. What sort of advice would you give those who are still in the verge, those who are still confused, those who are stuck, either with writer's block or whatsoever it is that is stopping them from proceeding, from becoming an aspiring writer to a real published author? What advice would you give people in this category, basically?
Well, I would say definitely find a community of fellow writers. You can say, "Oh, I'm going to go it on my own," but it's very time consuming and frustrating. You can
Mm,
go online and try to sign up for classes or buy books, but again, that's expensive. I would say
yeah,
find a community, even if it's online community of just
yeah,
people that will point you in the right direction for free
mm,
and maybe even, help you. So, because and don't give up
yeah,
because everybody I think has a story to tell.
absolutely. Well, that's an amazing advice you've got for people out there. And I'm hoping that viewers, even including myself, would love to utilize it. And Jayan, just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview, I would love to pick up any of your books. On what platform are they available on for purchase?
It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble if they like ebook, it's on
Mm,
Kobo and Apple. Pretty much anywhere that you like to find a book, it's there.
interesting.
A lot of the libraries are carrying them too. I
Mm,
can't speak for overseas, probably not, but you can always ask your local library, I think, to carry it. They do that, don't they? There too, I'm
yeah,
sure.
they do. Yeah, they do.
Good they do.
And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Jann Franklin books directly on Amazon and Barnes& and Nobles on our website and also on other platforms. I also left a link to our social media pages for possible followings. So thank you so much, Jan, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's lovely, awesome, beautiful, energetic, and interesting having this conversation with you around your titles. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well.